Welcome back to the Begin Purpose podcast. In our last episode, we talked about the pace of becoming. We explored the reality that growth, healing, identity, and purpose often take longer than we expect. We talked about patience, timing, hidden roots, and the importance of continuing to tend what matters, even when progress is not immediately visible. We ended with the reminder that slow growth is still growth, and that the person we are becoming may be forming more deeply than we can see in the moment. Today, I want to take that conversation in a direction that is central to purpose. I want to talk about service. Not service as obligation, not service as people-pleasing, not service as losing yourself in everyone else's needs. I want to talk about service as contribution, as expression, as the place where what has been forming inside of us begins to become useful, meaningful, and life-giving beyond ourselves. This episode is called Purpose Through Service, because at some point, purpose has to move outward. It begins within us through identity, reflection, values, healing, courage, patience, and alignment. But if purpose only stays inside of us, it remains incomplete. Purpose becomes deeper when it begins to touch someone else's life. That does not mean everyone needs a public platform, a microphone, a business, a ministry, a nonprofit, or a large audience. Service does not always look big. Sometimes service looks like encouragement offered at the right time. Sometimes it looks like teaching what you have learned. Sometimes it looks like creating something that helps someone feel less alone. Sometimes it looks like listening well. Sometimes it looks like raising children with intention, caring for a parent, mentoring a younger person, building a healthy workplace, coaching someone through uncertainty, praying for someone, writing a message, or showing up consistently in a world where many people disappear when life becomes inconvenient. Service is not measured only by visibility. It is measured by contribution. One of the reasons this matters is that many people approach purpose as though it is primarily about self-fulfillment. They ask, what will make me happy? What will help me feel complete? What will allow me to finally become who I am meant to be? Those are not bad questions. They matter. A person should care about their own life. They should care about healing, growth, joy, and meaning. But if purpose remains only self-focused, it can eventually become too small to sustain us. We were not made only to analyze ourselves. We were made to participate, to give, to build, to bless, to contribute, to become part of something larger than our own inner world. There is a difference between self-discovery and self-absorption. Self-discovery asks, who am I, and how can I live truthfully? Self-absorption asks, how can everything in life keep reflecting back to me? Purpose requires self-awareness, but then it invites us beyond ourselves. The more clearly we understand who we are becoming, the more responsibly we can ask, how can this becoming serve? That question changes everything. A person may have walked through grief and discovered compassion they never had before. At first, the work is internal. They are surviving. They are healing. They are trying to understand what has happened to them. But over time, that grief may become a doorway into service. They may become the person who sits with someone else in pain without rushing them. They may offer language to someone who feels lost. They may create support, write honestly, or simply become a presence that says, you are not alone. A person may have struggled for years with identity, confidence, or purpose. They may have felt stuck, unseen, or uncertain. But as they grow, the very place of struggle may become the place where they can help others. Not because they have everything figured out, but because they understand the terrain. They know what it feels like to question yourself. They know what it feels like to begin again. They know the quiet courage it takes to return to your life with intention. Their story becomes useful, not because it was easy, but because it became honest. A person may have spent years building skills in business, education, parenting, leadership, coaching, writing, healthcare, ministry, trades, art, technology, or community work. Those skills may have been used for income, responsibility, survival, or achievement. But at some point, they may begin asking, how can what I know help someone else move forward? That question turns experience into contribution. It takes knowledge and gives it direction. This is one of the beautiful things about service. It gathers the fragments of our lives and gives them somewhere to go. The lessons, the losses, the skills, the failures, the insights, the resilience, the The compassion, the wisdom, the scars, and the strengths do not have to remain disconnected pieces. Through service, they can become part of a meaningful offering. But we need to be careful here. Service is powerful, but unhealthy service can become another way to avoid ourselves. Some people serve because they are generous and aligned. Others serve because they feel guilty resting. Some serve because they want to contribute. Others serve because they do not know who they are unless someone needs them. Some serve from overflow. Others serve from emptiness and resentment. The outward action may look similar, but the inner posture is very different. Begin Purpose is interested in aligned service, not self-abandonment. Aligned service says, I am giving from a place that honors both my life and yours. Self-abandoning service says, I will disappear so you can be okay. Aligned service strengthens dignity on both sides. Self-abandoning service often produces exhaustion, resentment, and quiet bitterness. Aligned service has boundaries. Self-abandoning service often confuses boundaries with selfishness. This distinction matters because many caring people have been trained to believe that their value comes from being endlessly available. They become the helper, the fixer, the rescuer, the strong one, the dependable one, the person who always says yes. Others may praise them for it, but praise can sometimes hide depletion. A person can be admired for their service while privately losing connection with themselves. True purpose does not require you to abandon your own humanity. If your service leaves you chronically resentful, invisible, depleted, and disconnected from your values, it may be time to examine not whether service matters, but whether the way you are serving is aligned. Sometimes the most purposeful thing a helper can do is learn to serve with boundaries, to give honestly, not compulsively, to care deeply, not endlessly, to contribute meaningfully, not from the fear that saying no will make them unworthy. Healthy service asks, what is mine to carry? Not every need is your assignment. Not every crisis requires your involvement. Not every invitation is yours to accept. Not every person who wants access to your energy should receive it. Purpose is not the same as being available to every demand. In fact, if you say yes to everything, you may eventually have too little energy left for the specific contribution that is truly yours. That is why discernment belongs with service. We need to ask not only, can I help, but also, is this aligned with my season, capacity, values, and calling? There are times when love asks us to stretch. There are times when sacrifice is meaningful. There are times when service is inconvenient, but right. But there are also times when we are trying to meet needs we were never meant to carry, and in doing so, we neglect the work that is actually ours. Purpose through service is not about doing everything. It is about offering what is genuinely yours to offer. That offering may be shaped by your gifts. So people serve through words. They encourage, teach, write, counsel, preach, coach, or speak truth in ways that help others see clearly. Some people serve through presence. They listen, comfort, accompany, and create safety. Some serve through building. They organize, design, manage, create systems, solve problems, and make life work better for others. Some serve through creativity. They bring beauty, imagination, story, humor, music, art, or inspiration into places that need life. Some serve through protection. They advocate, defend, guide, correct, and stand in difficult places with courage. Some serve through generosity. They give resources, time, opportunity, hospitality, and practical help. No one form of service is superior to another. The question is not, does my contribution look impressive? The question is my contribution faithful, aligned, and life-giving? This is important because comparison can distort service. We may look at someone with a large platform and think our contribution is too small. We may see someone serving in a public role and assume private faithfulness matters less. But many of the most important acts of service are never widely seen. The conversation that keeps someone going, the mentoring that changes a young person's confidence, the kindness that interrupts despair, the consistency that rebuilds trust, the quiet labor that supports a family, a team, a community, or a mission. Hidden service is still service. Small service is still service. Local service is still service. Purpose does not always ask for a spotlight. Sometimes it asks for faithfulness. There is also a connection between service and identity. When we serve in alignment, we often meet ourselves more deeply. We discover what matters to us by noticing where our hearts come alive in contribution. A person may not fully know they are a teacher until they see understanding awaken in someone else's eyes. They may not know they are an encourager until they realize their words help others stand again. They may not know they are a builder until they create something that makes a process easier for people. They may not know they are a guide until someone says, "That helped me find direction." Service reflects identity back to us. It gives our inner formation an outward expression. But again, this does not mean we should rush to serve before we are ready in areas that require responsibility. Some forms of service require training, maturity, ethics, and accountability. Wanting to help is not enough in every situation. If someone is dealing with trauma, crisis, mental health concerns, addiction, abuse, or medical needs, service must be humble enough to recognize scope, boundaries, and referral. Purpose does not justify recklessness. The desire to help must be paired with wisdom. At the same time, we should not use the need for preparation as an excuse to never contribute. There are many ways to serve responsibly while still learning. You can encourage without pretending to be an expert. You can share your story without claiming to have all answers. You can teach what you truly know while remaining honest about what you are still learning. You can create resources, start conversations, offer support, build community, and point people toward additional help when needed. Responsible service does not require perfection. It requires humility, honesty, and care. One of the most meaningful shifts in life happens when we stop asking only, "What can I get from this?" and begin asking, "What can I give through this?" That does not mean we ignore our needs. It means we stop measuring every experience only by personal benefit. Even difficult seasons can become sources of wisdom. Even long delays can teach patience that later strengthens someone else. Even failures can become guidance. Even wounds, when handled with care, can become places where compassion grows. This does not mean every painful thing happened for the purpose of helping others. We need to be careful with that. Some things are simply painful. Some things should not have happened. Some losses are not made good by turning them into a lesson. But it does mean that pain does not have to have the final word. What wounded you may not define you, but what you learn, heal, and build from that place may become part of how you serve. Contribution can also protect us from the loneliness of endless self-focus. When we are trapped inside our own thoughts, our problems can become the whole world. Service helps us re-enter connection. It reminds us that others are carrying burdens too. It invites us to participate in the healing, strengthening, and encouragement of the world around us, even in small ways. Sometimes helping someone else does not solve our own struggle, but it places our struggle in a larger context. It reminds us that we are not only people in need, we are also people with something to offer. That realization can be deeply restoring. A person who feels useless may rediscover dignity through contribution. A person who feels lost may find direction by serving where there is a clear need. A person who feels invisible may discover that their presence matters to someone else. A person who feels behind may realize that their journey has given them wisdom someone else needs today. Service does not replace inner work, but it can become part of it. There is a phrase I want to offer here. Purpose grows where your becoming meets someone else's need. Your becoming matters. The inner work matters. Identity, values, courage, patience, healing, and alignment all matter. But at some point, what is being formed in you begins to find meaning in how it touches others. That intersection is often where purpose becomes more alive. So how do we begin? That's a powerful reflection. These questions really invite deep introspection about the core of what motivates you and where you can have the most meaningful impact. Starting small, in the spaces where you notice needs and feel naturally drawn to serve, can build a foundation for greater contributions over time. It's all about taking that first tangible step with what you have right now and trusting that it can grow into something deeply significant. A gesture we considered minor may become meaningful to someone else. A resource we created may help a person we never meet. Service often travels farther than our awareness. This is why we serve not only for immediate recognition, but because contribution is part of a purposeful life. Recognition is not wrong. Encouragement matters. Feedback can strengthen us. But if recognition becomes the primary fuel, service becomes fragile. We become discouraged when applause is absent. We begin measuring impact only by visible response. We may stop serving because the numbers are small or the gratitude is quiet. But purpose asks us to be faithful, even when the impact is not fully visible. That does not mean we ignore results. We should learn, improve, and pay attention to whether our service is actually helpful. But we should not assume that unseen means unimportant. Many meaningful things grow quietly. As we close this episode, I want to invite you into a simple reflection. Ask yourself, what has my life given me that could help someone else? Think about your experiences, lessons, skills, compassion, failures, knowledge, creativity, and resilience. Then ask, where is there a need that connects with what I carry? Finally ask, what is one small, healthy, aligned way I can serve this week? Keep it grounded. Send the message. Offer the encouragement. Share the lesson. Create the resource. Make the introduction. Volunteer the hour. Mentor the person. Listen without rushing. Teach what you know. Help where you can. Begin where you are. Purpose through service does not require you to be famous. It does not require you to be finished. Thank you for sharing that thoughtful message. It sounds like a wonderful and inspiring conclusion to an episode. If you'd like to continue or dive deeper into any particular aspect, feel free to let me know.